Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, NBC Sports, and so much more has been kind enough to return. How are you, Michael? What's going on, sir?
Doing great, Rich. Doing great. I'm in Hilton Head, South Carolina for the week, trying not to be eaten by an alligator.
Okay.
So far, I've been successful in that objective.
Do you play golf? Do you tee it up, Mike?
No.
Or no?
No, I prefer to enjoy myself.
What does that mean?
So you don't find golf relaxing? You don't enjoy?
God, no.
Okay.
No. Golf is something that I am just good enough at to begin to improve when I begin to play, and then I get very interested in it, and I want to start getting better, so I start thinking about it and practicing, going to the range, getting frustrated when any improvement I think I'm making doesn't manifest itself, and then eventually hate everything about it and quit, and then 5 years later I get sucked into it again. Although I think the last time it happened, I swore it off for good. It's just
okay.
It just drives me crazy because I want to be better at it than I am, and I feel like I should be, and the fact that I'm not makes me hate it. So I'd rather just, do nothing and not piss myself off.
Well, here we are in that time of year right before training camps are opening up, starting at the end of next week. But there is a pretty big date on Monday. What is, in your estimation, happening with Saquon Barkley and the Giants right now as we're talking?
Well, my understanding is that they tried to get him signed to a long-term deal before applying the franchise tag. What they wanted to do, Rich, was sign him to a long-term deal because he's the proven commodity. Sign him to the long-term deal and tag Daniel Jones. Kick the can for a year, see if Jones can do a sequel in 2023 to what he did in 2022, and then sign him after that, if need be. So they made an offer to Saquon. I'm told $13 million a year, $26 million guaranteed over the first 2 years. He wanted $16 million a year, not $13 million a year. Now he has called that cap, as the kids say on Twitter, but the numbers aren't unreasonable. They're not implausible. It would make sense for the Giants to have offered $13 a year, and it would make sense for Barkley to have wanted $16 a year. But the Giants' message was, once we apply the franchise tag, the offer is pulled. Now, good luck holding to that if you're the Giants as we get closer to this deadline on Monday. But that's what happened back in March. Now the question is, when will the Giants put 13 back on the table? Will they add to it? And how much more beyond 13 will be necessary to get, say, a long-term deal? And after Monday, you can't do a long-term deal. All you can do is a one-year deal, and $10.1 million is the franchise tender, although the Giants could, in theory, offer him more than that to get him to show up.
So $16 million, what's the significance of that? Is there a significance? That's
Christian McCaffrey. New money average when he signed his new contract when he was with the Panthers a few years ago. And, look, the market has gone down, but the salary cap has gone up. I mean, that is not a number that would reflect any type of greed. I think Barkley's very sensitive to the perception he's being greedy because, fans line up behind the owners. They get mad at the players for wanting more. But when you're a running back and you can end on any given play and you're in a position where you can exert leverage, get what you can while you can. 16 is not unreasonable for him to want. And if that's just a negotiating point and you're willing to go down to 14 or 15, but you take 16 to get more than 13, that makes it even more reasonable. So I don't think he ever expected to get 16, but that doesn't mean he wouldn't have asked for 16. We reported back in February that Daniel Jones wanted $45 million or more per year. It turns out he wanted 47. That's what you asked for to get them from the low 30s up to the 40 where it all finally ended.
So why isn't 14 and a half something? I mean, I just don't understand. We've got Austin Eckler coming up in hour number 3, and so obviously this news, his story altogether makes that a theme of today's show. If this was Sesame Street, it would be sponsored by, the market value of running backs right now. That would be the number. And so I just don't get it. I honestly, I don't get it, man. I mean, these guys are significantly as important on the field as any of these top wide receivers who take defenses apart with their speed and their abilities. I don't get it, brother. I just don't get it, what's happening in the NFL right now.
Rich, I don't know much about economics, but I know this, supply and demand. And there is a greater supply of competent running backs coming out of every major college every year. Every major college has a guy who plays tailback at a high level who could, in theory, thrive in the NFL. If you block for him, if he can be taught to hold on to the football when he's attacked, not tackled, but attacked in a way to get him to fumble, and also if you can trust him to pick up backers and defensive backs, he can play running back at the NFL level. There are too many great athletes at the running back position. So what happens is teams draft a guy, chew him up, spit him out, and draft somebody else. That's why the market is where it is. There are too many young running backs where teams can say, we'll go younger, we'll go cheaper, we'll go healthier, and we'll make this guy into a star, and then when the time comes to pay him, we'll just go find somebody else, like the Cowboys did when they let DeMarco Murray walk away. He set the franchise record for single-season rushing yards, and his reward was, see you later. We'll figure something else out. And they ended up getting the guy from Arkansas, Darren McFadden, who had 1,000 rushing yards in the bridge year between DeMarco Murray and Ezekiel Elliott. So there's just too many running backs out there. And I think this goes back to something Ben Tate, former Auburn running back who was drafted, I think, round 2 or 3 by the Texans. He said at one point, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have played running back. So the message out there for the young running backs, the young athletes who are dominant at the youth football level, so the coaches just give the football to them and say run circles around everyone else, they need to resist being pigeonholed as running backs and get themselves into other positions that will have longer career, less wear and tear, and more money.
I mean, the Cowboys are rooting to see Matt Breida start week 1. That's for damn sure. You know, who's right behind Saquon on the depth chart. Do you think he would hold out? Or do you – I mean, look, you know how this works. It ain't midnight yet. Midnight's coming up on Monday, and you even said that the Giants could throw some more money at him to make sure he reports, or that's over the weekend, right? Or Monday is Monday. That's it.
No. Here's the problem with Monday. The Monday deadline, after that, you can't sign him to a multi-year deal. So whatever leverage he has isn't going to lead to what he wants. His leverage is, I'm not showing up for training camp, I'm not showing up for week 1, I'm not showing up for week 2. And if it works, what are they going to do? It's too late to do the long-term deal. That rule hurts the player because it cuts off the ability to get what you're trying to achieve by using your leverage. You can't do the long-term deal. They could offer him more money. That's never been done for anyone under the franchise tag. What I've seen in the past with Lance Briggs and Albert Haynesworth years ago, you put in a term saying basically we won't franchise tag you next year if you reach certain performance levels. So then the guy has an incentive. He signs a 1-year deal and he potentially gets to walk away after that year. So they could do that. But, yeah, the deadline is Monday for the multi-year deal, the long-term security he wants. So now's the time for him to huff and puff. There's no house to be blown down until week 1, but this artificial, arbitrary rule only gives him until Monday to get their attention on what he wants on a long-term deal.
Well, and, of course, he plays for the Giants in the Northeast, and Saquon is Saquon, and lost, I guess, in that shuffle is Josh Jacobs in the same boat with the Raiders, and he was the leading rusher of the entire league last year. So is that in the same, dumpster right now that's on fire?
Same idea, but not as much noise. And I think the Raiders less inclined to do a long-term deal. Pay the 10-1, have him be your guy again for another year, let him go do his thing. There was a thought when Josh McDaniels became the head coach that what we would see from the Raiders is what we've seen from the Patriots, where you've got multiple running backs. Who gets the ball, who's involved in the offense is driven by game plan and defense, and not, hey, we've just got a workhorse that we're going to use over and over again. I won't be surprised if they don't do a long-term deal and intend to keep him for 1 more year. And, hey, Rich, once Dalvin Cook became available, I threw out the idea that maybe Josh Jacobs should do what Tony Pollard did and accept that $10.1 million. Because until you accept it, the team can yank it like Josh Norman found out a few years ago, and they can just go sign Dalvin Cook for 1 year. All right, Josh Jacobs wants 10-1. Well, we can get Dalvin Cook for 8 or 9. Let's just do that for 1 year if we're only going to keep Josh Jacobs for 1 more year anyway. That's in theory something that could be done, and I think that Jacobs should be far more nervous about that than Barkley. I can't imagine the Giants doing that with Barkley.
Right.
But it wouldn't shock me if the Raiders did it with Josh Jacobs.
Wow. Where do you think is that part of the reason why Cook hasn't jumped at whatever offers reportedly on the table from Miami, or just it makes no sense to do that right now? What do you think?
I think Cook and DeAndre Hopkins, the 2 big-name free agents, are both doing the same thing. They're just waiting. There's no rush to do anything now. No one has made them an offer that they can or won't refuse. So let's just wait and see what happens, whether it's into training camp, whether it's right when training camp starts, whenever it may be. I mean, at some point you got to show up in practice to get yourself ready, but they both got the luxury of time. And you can't. I mean, I wouldn't rule out that possibility. Hell, the Bengals, if they wanted to, and I don't think this has started yet, but if the Bengals wanted to, if they're trying to squeeze Joe Mixon to take less, they could start flirting with Dalvin Cook and say, "Hey, Joe, you don't want to take less? We'll give the reduced offer that we would otherwise give to you to Dalvin Cook, and we'll just swap out Dalvin Cook for Joe Mixon." So, I mean, that's the other problem with the running back position. It's interchangeable parts. There's too many guys out there that can play at a high level, rookies and veterans. It gets back to why they struggle to get the value that they truly bring to the table.
So it's just the fact that running back might be, I'll use the word easier to succeed at, easier to learn a playbook, easier to see the hole and be patient than, I guess it's more skilled to play receiver and quarterback and left tackle, and more skilled to do, that you can't find the young kids to blossom and succeed so quickly in the draft, that the running back position, is that the issue here? Like, just putting it all together, that's why running backs are more replaceable, fungible, however you want to put it, and we're in this position with guys who are absolutely one of your first round draft selections in your fantasy league, but in the NFL, it's just like, okay, Mixon, you're out. Cook, you're in. Cook, you're out. Madison, you're in. Eckler, you can go seek a trade if you want, and if not, we'll just flip you a few more bucks and you can come back. Is that the reason why we're in the position we're in?
That's basically it. I mean, the skills are more rare at quarterback. Obviously, there aren't enough good quarterbacks to go around. Hell, there aren't enough bad quarterbacks to go around. Receiver is kind of becoming like running back, because all those 7-on-7 camps that are done at high school and college level, you've got all those quarterbacks throwing all those passes. Guys are catching them. They're running routes and they're catching them. They're getting better. So we're seeing more and more successful receivers come out, and it could go the way of the running back at some point. But at least, and see, this is one of the arguments that I know. We focus so much on the passing game, so the guys part of the passing game get paid more. But a good running back still affects the team. Yeah. More than a good receiver does.
No doubt.
He's touching the ball more often, especially if he's involved in the passing game. But it's that simple. So the best athletes should be playing a different position. When Jim Brown died, I had this thought: what if there was another talent like Jim Brown, who was just great at everything he did, lacrosse, football, anything, everything? Would he be a running back or would he be a quarterback in today's NFL?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, the way the game is gone, you take that great you just give him the ball and Pop Warner and say, go, you get him to a different position, because that greatness can manifest itself in a more rare skill set that you develop over time, and you play in the NFL for 15 to 20 years instead of 3, 4, 5 years.
Mike Florio here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, let's get into the Commanders' sale. Is that in jeopardy right now with whatever's going on with Dan Snyder?
Well, it's either Dan Snyder trying to get a few extra concessions on his way out the door, because they're so determined to close the book on Snyder's tenure that maybe they'll agree to whatever those last few things is he wants, because they don't want it to blow up. That could be it. And the Washington Post article on the subject today acknowledged the possibility. This is just posturing. This is just grabbing a few terms that are favorable to Snyder as he leaves. But if there is a bigger issue here, and it all comes down to legalese, but it makes to this. And let's use the Jon Gruden emails lawsuit that is a somebody leaked those things. Somebody weaponized those emails to get him pushed out as head coach of the Raiders. If his lawsuit in Nevada stays in court and isn't pulled into arbitration by the NFL, that thing could blow up with a big settlement or a big verdict. So who pays for it? Who pays for it? Snyder doesn't want to pay for it. The league doesn't want to pay for it. Everyone's saying we didn't leak it. Somebody did. And if Gruden's able to pursue this thing in open court, the discovery process quite possibly is going to produce the digital footprints that take us back to who leaked it. So if that all blows up at some point down the road, they want to have it figured out now who's paying for it. I think that's the real issue. Who's going to pay for that? Plus any other potential litigation that could pop up. But that's the one that we know about. That's the one I think they want to account for. And that article from ESPN, it's a long one, but it's worth reading it all. There's a lot of details in there that I think show that everyone should be concerned about the power that Gruden has. And frankly, he's got a ton of leverage. I mean, this would be a good time for him to make an offer, and it would be smart for the league and Snyder to throw some money together to make it go away.
So Jon Gruden's email, again, that story of Don Van Natta and Seth Wickersham, the deep dive, long read, however you want to put it, in ESPN that came out about 24 hours ago. You're saying, what did you learn about Gruden and whatnot in that makes you think he's got such a strong case that a settlement might be smart for him, or it causes the league and Snyder to start arguing about who's indemnified, that holds up the Commander's sale? I mean, what just came out that might make you think?
On the surface, we look at Jon Gruden's lawsuit and we just kind of sneer because he sent the emails, he got what he deserved. That's the easy reaction to the Gruden lawsuit. Mm-hmm. The more nuanced approach is those emails were part of a 650,000 document trove that was supposed to be kept entirely secret. The league decided we're keeping everything under wraps. Whether you agree or disagree with their reasoning for doing it, that's what they did. So somebody pulled off a few of those supposedly secret documents and weaponized them against Jon Gruden. Specifically, deliberately leaked them, knowing what would happen. What's going to happen? You get this stuff out there, and he's done as coach of the Raiders. So that's what his claim is. These documents that supposedly were going to be kept secret were selectively used in an effort to squeeze Mark Davis to get rid of him. And you've got a small universe of people that had access. Dan Snyder has testified under oath to Congress. He didn't do it. Roger Goodell has told the owners he didn't do it. Now, when he about it, that would have made a very compelling situation if both Goodell and Snyder had testified under oath to Congress. They didn't leak it, because you can find the right forensics expert to dig to the bottom of this. Even though the reporters will never disclose who gave them the information, you can find out from the league's perspective, the Commander's perspective. Somebody's got that trail of breadcrumbs that's going to show who sent those emails out. And Rich, if that's ever brought to light and Gruden is determined and motivated, the quote that got me was he wants to burn the NFL's house down. If he means the league office, not the entire operation. Yeah. If he's successful with that, people should be very nervous, because somebody has lied about not leaking them, because somebody clearly leaked them, and there aren't many people who could have done it. So that to me was just the wow to understand and digest everything they reported, and that's why, it would be a good idea to try to settle this case with Jon Gruden. But Gruden, based on this report, is determined to keep pushing, and he'll refuse all. Easy to say until you got 50, 60, 70 million staring at you. And I'm just throwing out numbers that would presumably get his attention. But he's determined to try to make this happen and expose whoever it was that leaked the information.
Wow, that's all out there. Okay, training camp. So this is your last hurrah of just chilling, right? Back at it next week, Mike.
Yeah, I mean,
this is it.
But here's the thing. I'm supposed to be on vacation.
I know. I'm calling you. I know you were on DP. I get it.
And look, but I don't mind it. I mean, my life is a vacation. I don't work.
Nice.
I enjoy this.
I love it.
So, I'll go down to the beach and get a little more sun today and probably have a few more drinks than I should tonight. And then we just take the operation back home, and it all continues. PFT Live returns on Peacock on July 24th.
Okay.
But we still keep going. I like it. When it gets slow, when you're a media outlet that covers the NFL and it gets slow, I get nervous. It's like, is it ever going to come back again? Please, let's come back. Let's go. Let's have some news. Let's have some stuff to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Jets Hard Knocks coming up.
Boy. Hey, Rich, I don't know if you've talked about it. This is the angle that I have with it. This is why I think the Jets didn't want to do it. Because, the team's got final say over what makes it to air.
Sure.
But you better be damn sure Aaron Rodgers is okay with whatever you put in there. That's the pressure point. If whoever is editing that thing and giving the up or down guesses wrong and Aaron Rodgers gets upset, then you got a problem with Aaron Rodgers that you otherwise could have avoided. So here's hoping they put some stuff in there that makes Aaron Rodgers upset, and he goes on Pat McAfee's show and complains about how they put stuff in there that they shouldn't.
Look at you. Personally, I think it's also the last time they did it, they had a holdout, and that wasn't fun when Revis holding out. I mean, Quinnen Williams is still unsigned. I don't know if that might be it too. You know what I mean? Like there's some of that, and just general sense of everybody. In the era of control, what you can control, and I know they can control it. I don't know why it's a distraction. NFL films is, it doesn't leave a fingerprint. They're the best at it. So I don't know. We'll find out though. It'll be fun.
Oh, but everything's a distraction. You know how coaches are.
Yeah.
Everything and anything's a distraction. When Rex Ryan did it in 2010, the argument was, hey, we need to get our players accustomed to having all this attention because we intend to go to the postseason. And when you get to the postseason, the attention becomes unwieldy, so you may as well be used to the crush of it now. So they tried that. My understanding is they tried that argument on the Jets to get them to want to do it, but it didn't work. And that's what's great. The first time they've been doing Hard Knocks for 20 years now that you have a team that truly doesn't want to do it. That could make for some compelling content if you have a team that is resisting actively whatever the NFL is trying to do.
That's a hard knock for sure. Thanks for the call, Mike. Greatly appreciate it. You're the best. Enjoy your time.
See you, pal.
You got it. That's Mike Florio. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.